and making it fabulous, I'm sure.
Well, this is interesting.
Space
So what
experts
have
are
you
watching
done?
closely
I said,
as debris from
I made
Chinese
this doable
rocket
for me. How
plunges
about
back
that?
to Earth, maybe tomorrow.
I
Before
know
we
that's
know
We
right.
it,
don't
where
even
it's
have
going to
anything
land,
that wears
Beijing
like
says
this.
this
You
is
kidding me,
not much of a
Daddy?
threat to
Really?
people and property on the
Ugh.
ground.
He just thinks
Debris will
things
pass
like that
over
are just
East
too over
Coast
the top.
cities
When I
here
wore
in the
my hair
U.S. The White
out
House
and
says the
big, he
Space Command
hated
is
that.
tracking this. This
And
is
then
a
when I decided,
Really?
oh man, and then when I decided to add
new
weave
UN
to it,
report says cutting methane
my
pollution is
and my father's
crucial to
not that
curbing
guy
climate
who's like,
change in the short
well,
run.
what are you
AP
wearing? He doesn't do
correspondent Ben
that.
Thomas with the
So
latest
I
on
knew
this
it was a
story.
bridge too far
Methane
when
is
he
much more
said
potent
something.
in
I
trapping
mean,
heat than
he
the
said,
chief greenhouse gas, carbon
you have too much
dioxide.
hair of your
But
own to
methane
do
only
this.
lingers for about a
This
dozen
is
years,
showing a
while
Got
carbon
need,
dioxide sticks
neediness.
around
I
for
don't like it.
centuries. The UN
You don't.
report says
He
emissions
said,
got
I
from
don't
it.
like it.
Earth
He
need to
said,
be cut,
you
but
don't need
methane
this.
cuts pay
And
off
my mother's
quicker.
like the wait,
Cutting
wait.
emissions
She's
by
up front.
2030
She's up
could
front
prevent
about
a
that.
half degree of future
He
warming
said,
and a
okay,
quarter
Got
of
he
it.
said, that's your
deaths from air
mom. That
pollution
is not you.
annually.
Do not.
The report also
I
says
said,
methane reduction would
what are
be
you?
relatively inexpensive by plugging leaks in pipelines,
He said, what
venting
is
of
this?
natural
I
gas
said,
during drilling,
you're
and
looking
capturing gas from
ridiculous.
landfills. Reducing
Oh.
methane, melting
And he
limestone,
doesn't. He
and
does
other
not. I cannot
agricultural sources
emphasize
is the
enough.
biggest challenge.
My father, he
I'm Ben
doesn't do that.
Thomas.
The Dow
He
gained
really doesn't.
318
He's
points
not that guy
yesterday
who's like,
to a new
he will
high.
compliment
I'm
you.
Rita Foley, AP News.
You look great, all of that, but
This is 8:20 a.m.
what you wear, you know,
Right.
some men like to choose what women
and
wear.
streaming worldwide.
Now, my
at
father said, I will pay for it.
WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's
He said,
progressive
now,
talk.
when I was growing up, he was
Facts
like, now I
matter.
want you to look like I work hard. I said, I'll pay for it.
Now your WCPT
Sitting
820
around
Chicago traffic update.
requiring this.
In North Waukegan,
Oh, Biden
Mhm.
omitted the word God from the National Prayer Declaration.
Blanchard
Isn't that
after an
interesting?
earlier crash in Aurora.
Oh wow.
Broadway is closed.
I mean,
Benton and Downer due to a water main break.
oh boy.
River Road emergency crews
Hmm.
pursued a crash on Grand
Well, I
Avenue
mean, I think the
west
Democrats
of
took
Des
something
Plaines
out
River
of
Road. In
God
Northwest, traffic is now
some of
heavy
their
on
language
westbound
too. I was at
8094 Klein to Indianapolis
I was at the
Boulevard
convention
road
when
work.
they did
It's
it, and I was
21
very
minutes.
bothered
The
by
toll
that.
road is Bishop Ford Freeway
And I
eastbound
ended up going
15
to
minutes.
another
Bishop
conference,
Ford
and I
approaching
said, you all have
siblings
to
crash
you all
on the
have to
left
make space
shoulder.
for people
Takes
who
10
believe
minutes
in
from
God.
8094 to merge. Inbound Orion's a little tight approaching downtown.
I
It's
said, otherwise
12
you're gonna
minutes from
lose me.
95th.
How about
That's
that?
traffic. I'm Jim Calamonte.
Tom Hartman.
The media is all
So
over this
anyway,
cancel
girl, I had
culture
so much
thing, but
fun
how
with
are
you
they
this week.
missing the real cancel culture that's actually
So did I. I had such a good time with you. It was so great to see you.
It
So
was
great to connect.
wonderful. And you know what?
who have lost
I
their
want to
jobs
introduce you
because
to
of the way
Melanie,
that Trump handled the COVID
who
crisis.
owns the
Oh,
store
I'd
that we
love
met.
that.
Trying to
I have.
cancel
Yes,
stimulus
I already
money or
told her
anything
about
to the
you,
American
and
people.
The Tom Hartman
I'm
radio
going to
program.
connect you all before the
Weekdays
day is
11
out.
a.m. to 2 p.m. on
You will
Fantastic.
love
Look at
stuff.
this beautiful necklace.
Huh?
Well, Stephanie Miller here with a few words about
I'm
something
just
good.
opening Facebook and I love this wonderful necklace.
Help support on your phone. What's not to love? And guess who's waiting to take your call? The Tummy
I just
Whisperer.
love.
If
Oh,
you have
love.
any
I got it
concerns
from
about your
Mel
stomach,
too.
digestion, or overall health,
I wish I
Oh
brought a
wow.
couple
I
other
can't wait.
colors.
look
Oh
Klein's
yeah,
Digestive
you're
Health
gonna love her.
Solutions use telehealth to get
Love
help with their
her.
symptoms,
Oh,
discomfort, and worry from the
this
safety
is
of their
beautiful.
homes.
Yeah,
A
I mean,
certified
because it
digestive
gives
health
us
specialist,
space.
Renee helps her clients
When
address
I,
issues like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I told you I was
irregularity,
much
allergies, joint
heavier.
inflammation. She identifies
And as I was
specific
losing weight, my
digestive and
mother said
nutritional
your
imbalances,
inclination is
develops
to
a
go to
plan to
St.
improve
John's.
your health
30.
on your phone. And in
Yeah.
office
I'm gonna take you
visit,
away
Renee
from that
follows
because
all
that's gonna
CDC
age you
pandemic
quickly.
protocols, including
She said,
masks, temperature
what I'm gonna
control,
send
and
you
vigorous
will make you
sanitation.
ageless.
Pick up your phone.
Because
Schedule a
it's a little
telehealth
hip.
visit today. Call Digestive Health
And you know, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
different
724-7-207-2034.
wardrobe
15.
places. You know,
Renee
we're
will
gonna
get you
come up
feeling
and
better
For
that way.
sure.
Again,
stand by.
10.
847-203-2034 or go to thetummywhisperer.com.
WCPT
5.
20, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
All right, determined, unstoppable. I am Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. Happy Mother's Day, everybody, from WCPT 820 in Chicago, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. The voice of progressive Minnesota. That's right, unstoppable. Indeed, this is Mother's Day weekend. All mothers and all who give that mothering energy to people. May you have a blessed Mother's Day weekend. Just a quick note as we go into this Mother's Day edition of the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278 as we talk about the Texas voting restrictions that will be among the most restrictive in the nation. We're going to have Commissioner Rodney Ellis from Harris County to talk to us about that. Indeed, Governor DeSantis in Florida signed this legislation in private. He excluded all media except Fox. Interesting. And then we're going to talk with women about what it is that we need. Did you know that preventive cancer screenings in the first 4 months of the pandemic uh, declined by 94%? 94%. And people are paying a heavy, heavy price. A lot of people are losing their lives because of that. And then we're going to just have a general question about what it is that mothers need in the second hour. But I want to remind you that this is Mother's Day for Peace. That was the original idea, the most popular idea. Initially, there was a woman, Anna Jarvis, who was campaigning for sanitation. Uh, Things that women needed to campaign for to keep their children and their husbands and their families safe. But Julia Ward Howe, who was an abolitionist, a woman who was really ahead of her time, she wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic, those lyrics, and she abolitionist, suffragist, an overall humanist. After the Civil War, in which women in the North and the South cared for soldiers from the North and the South, the Confederates, um, as well as the Union soldiers. They said, that's somebody's child. So we're going to take care of them. So Julia Ward Howe said, what we need to do is arise, 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 women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be that of water or tears. We will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We women of one country will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. Mother's Day for Peace. You're going to hear me talk about that all throughout the show because we have got to pivot away from what has happened to Mother's Day. Mother's Day has been corrupted. Mother's Day has been perverted. Mother's Day is about women making the world what it's supposed to be. We have the power to change it. If God gave us the power to give birth to the world, certainly we can change the world. Think about that. Mother's Day for Peace. That is what we're celebrating today. Let us get to some of these headlines. Chicago, we're going to have a high of 55 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 57 degrees. Mostly sunny. The Dow closed up 318 points yesterday. The Nasdaq closed up 50 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 34 points. In Major League Baseball, the Twins barely lost one to the Rangers. The Rangers 4, the Twins 3, and they're going to be playing the Tigers today. The Cubs will be facing off against the Pirates, and the White Sox will be facing off against the Kansas City Royals. Florida has enacted massive voter restrictions, and Texas has moved to follow. What will be in these voting bills? We'll be talking about that at the bottom of the hour. They're reviewing the Arizona 2020 vote, and it's riddled with flaws, according to state's top officials. Untrained citizens are trying to find traces of bamboo, as the New York Times writes, on last year's ballots. Yeah, seemingly trying to prove a conspiracy theory that the election was tainted by fake votes from Asia. You can't make this stuff up. The U.S. could return to the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran within weeks, according to a senior administration official from the Biden administration, everybody. Governor Pritzker here in Illinois hopes to fully reopen Illinois as soon as June 11th. That's just down the street, everybody. Down the street. Are you ready for Illinois and America to reopen? We got to talk about that, everybody. And then, do you remember last year, in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery? Well, there was another young man in an Atlanta parking lot in a Wendy's. Remember Rashard Brooks, who was killed? Well, the officer who killed him, much was made of the way that he was killed. Everybody felt that it was unfair. And he was pulled off the force. Well, guess what? An Atlanta Oversight Board has ordered his reinstatement. The fired police officer charged with the murder of Rashard Brooks, charged with his murder, everybody. Based on technicalities about the dismissal of procedures, has been put back on the force, everybody. He will remain on administrative leave until his criminal charges are resolved, according to the Atlanta Police Department. Wow, everybody. This enrollment surge might have an upside for everybody. That is to say, almost 1 million Americans have signed up for ACA coverage since February, roughly half of them in April alone, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And the strong enrollment numbers could help Democrats make the case that some of the changes to the ACA should become permanent. The success of this enrollment period, according to the administration, has significance for the people who get newly covered or see their premiums or deductibles go down. So what do you think about that, everybody? Maybe we'll have Medicare for all. I think we need to push for that, everybody. This was a massacre to our brothers and sisters down in Brazil. What is going on down there? We're about to get another election, I know that. More than 100 heavily armed Brazilian police officers stormed a favela in Rio de Janeiro Thursday and killed at least 24 people, a raid that human rights activists, researchers, and journalists all described as the deadliest such police atrocity in the city's history. It was an hours-long operation, everybody, reportedly aimed at drug traffickers in this favela, which is basically the ghetto, everybody. It ultimately left 25 people dead. Can you believe the police just went in there and started shooting people? Now, get this, everybody. This is why you got to watch what happens online. The New York Attorney General revealed that telecom giants funded a secret campaign to flood the FCC. Now, it's a multi-year investigation that yielded this information. It turns out that they flooded the FCC, get this, everybody, with millions of fake comments in an attempt to influence the agency's 2017 repeal of net neutrality protections. So a lot of these comments that you were reading weren't true. They were fake. And as we look at the West, right, these wealthy nations that are hoarding the vaccines, the United States, the UK, Canada, all of the European nations, guess what? We just found out, according to this study, 152 trillion, that's trillion with a T, that's how much money wealthy countries have drained from the global south since 1960. You know we are going to talk about this next week. 3 social scientists, Jason Hickel, an economic anthropologist from the University of London, Dylan Sullivan, a graduate student in political economy at the University of Sydney, and Mr. Zoom Kawala, want to get his name right, an independent scholar based in Pakistan, explained how they arrived at that $152 trillion figure. That is to say, all of the so-called rich nations, their wealth is based upon what they have gotten from the so-called poor nations. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. Don't get this twisted. You got to understand who the real debtor and who the real creditor is. Pastor Tisha Williams, First Baptist Church in Bridgehampton, New York, give us some good news. Happy Mother's Day to you.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to all mothers and mother figures out there. I pray that you guys will have a wonderful day. I want to honor mothers today as we move towards Sunday and this wonderful day of Mother's Day. I want to talk today about the come up. I heard in the book of Acts, we find that there was a disciple named Tabitha who was well known for doing good and helping out. And Peter happened to be in the area and had healed some sick people. When the disciples heard that Peter was nearby, they went and asked him to come over. When she died, they were hoping that he would perform a miracle and could bring her back to life. And Peter got up, and when he got there, they took him to the room where Tabitha's body was laid out. He put all the widows out of the room, knelt and prayed, and then spoke boldly to her and said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes. When she saw Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her up. You know, on a recent visit with friends out there with you guys, I had the pleasure of doing something I haven't done in years, play video games. And as I walked into the arcade, I was hit with a giddy sense of nostalgia because they are lining the walls and the aisles like cyber soldiers. Santita, were over 800 of the video games of my youth. But there was one game that caught my attention beyond others called Beastbusters, Second Nightmare. The setting was a hospital where an unknown virus breaks out and causes the staff and the patients to mutate into horrific monsters. So here I am armed with a machine gun controller and the unimpressive rank of player 1. I set to the task of beast busting, or if I can be honest, the beast began busting me, and thus began the race against the clock for revival. I had 10 seconds to continue or capitulate. It was then that I was struck with a bout of PTCD, post-traumatic stress disorder, as I frantically searched for a quarter to continue my quest. And just as the panic set in, I remembered the words of the arcade attendant upon checking in. He said, should the game ask for quarters, simply hit the reset button and continue play. It was then I realized what I've always loved about video games. I could always count on the resurrection power of pushing reset. It allowed me to start fresh and continue at my current level in order to come up to the next level. And this morning, couldn't we all use a come up? Who among you does not wish for a do-over? In your darkest moments, don't you wish you could hit a reset button when the bills are bearing you and the relationship is repressing you, when you're interned by the IRS and entombed by that entanglement, when your debts are deadly and you can no longer cover the secret you carry, when the penance for your poor choices seems permanent and you find yourself suffering without cause or incident? Don't you wish this morning you could hit a reset button? And here, that's what Peter does for this dedicated do-gooder disciple named Dorcas, also known as Tabitha. But to simply call her a disciple does her no justice. Tabitha is the quintessential church mother. There's a tagline in a recent Northwell Health commercial that says, when we raise the health of women, we raise the health of everyone. And further into this study, we find that this is the only resurrection performed by a disciple. The person revived is a woman. I'm not surprised, because based on what we know about this matriarch and her ministry, death was not an option. She simply couldn't stay dead. Her community wouldn't allow it, because for those she fed, clothed, and ministered to, they knew that if she died, what would die with her? That's the power of mothers today. We know that when they die, they lose, we all lose. So here Peter comes up and raises her from the dead. What's interesting is they prepare her body for burial and put her in a cool room. Please don't miss this. In order to come up, sometimes God has to remove you from others, and sometimes God has to remove others for you. This was the case when Peter enters the room where Tabitha is laid out. He discovers quickly that there's some folks who need to be put out. That's a message for someone. Her old friends, most of them widows, are in the room mourning, and customarily, the louder you wailed, the more the person was loved. Crying was cathartic for the widows, but it was chaotic for Peter and would do nothing to bring Tabitha back. What are you saying, Tish? I'm saying that when someone is laid out and really down, if you want to show your love, when I'm laid out, don't wild out. Help me out. Don't wail worship. Don't wail work. Don't wail witness. Unless we be too hard on these widows, I'm still encouraged by their witness, because they showed Peter pieces of clothing that she made while she was with them. Traditionally, a custom was when you were wailing, you could also tear apart your woven garments. But here, they didn't tear their garments. They presented their garments. In other words, they did not rip her to shreds when she was down, but rather allowed her work to speak for her. Santita, I can hear church mothers singing right now, when I've done the best that I can, and my friends, they don't understand me, the work I've done speaks for me. Mothers, I want you to know today that your work, your labor is not in vain. Your children shall rise up and call you blessed. The work you've done in the lives of those you love will speak for you. Your sacrifice is not in vain. Your tears are not in vain. Your late nights are not in vain. Your prayers are not in vain. Your service is not in vain. Your love is not in vain. Your discipline is not in vain. Throughout this, Dorcas remains dormant. She can't speak, but her work speaks for her. And it's the work that inspires Peter to say, Dorcas, it is not game over for you. And here's the good news. Guess what? Because of the work you've done, God is saying your game ain't over either. It's just getting started. Do you know today why death is not an option for you? Because God still has more work for you to do. Can I hit you with another verse? The works I've done, it seems so small. Sometimes it seems like nothing at all. But Lord, I'm leaning and depending on you. If I do right, you're going to see me through. May the work I've done speak for me. I know right now for someone the clock is ticking, but here, be encouraged. God is about to hit the reset button. Reset your relationship. Reset your revenue. Reset your realities. Reset your race. God is about to reset, restore, rejuvenate, and renew. Somebody get excited and say, I'm ready for a reset. And that's the good news.
I'm ready for a reset. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Amen, amen, and amen. Amen, amen, and amen. First Baptist Church, Bridgehampton, New York. I'm wearing her T-shirt today, everybody. To tell everybody about this T-shirt.
So the T-shirt is Who's That Lady T-shirt, Lady Nation, my Global Women's Ministry movement. And the T-shirt has a ton of declarations of the I am, the daughters of I am. That's the I am themed T-shirt. I am she who believes. I am a force. I am God's child. All of these wonderful declarations. So on days where you feel like you need a reset, that's a really good reset tee.
Amen.
I
to
am a
that.
force. That's my favorite statement on there is I am a force.
I am a force.
And so that T-shirt officially welcomes you as a member of Lady Nation. Welcome, Santita.
Thank you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. We just
You're
love you to
welcome.
pieces. Oh, we got
Love
another
you.
sister beloved with us today, of course. I was about to call her Reverend, but she does have a ministerial zeal that she does apply to the world of healthcare. One of the world's most renowned epidemiologists, Dr. Jennifer Holden, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State. How you doing today?
I'm good. I love how you just always elevating me and adding credentials and all that. Maybe it was meant for me to go into ministry or something, and I'm missing the calling.
Well, people keep calling this radio show a ministry. I think that we minister in various ways. One of the things that attracted a lot of young ministers to my father's ministry more than 50 years ago when he was a young man was that he was doing it differently. He was out in the streets with the people. And I have nothing against being in a church because you can minister in many different ways. And I think he showed yet another way, as Dr. King did, to minister. And I think that when you bring people up, when you heal them, when you love them, when you care for the least of these, that what you've done unto the least of these is also done unto me. That is the focus of your work. That is ministerial to me. Blessings to you, Dr. Deborah Holden. And thank you so much for this. What points do you want to hit on with COVID? There are so many that I can think of. They're even now talking about ACA and how enrollment has gone up. And I know enrollment has gone up. I'm sure. I'm not going to say I know, but I'm sure that.
I'll say that's not been trivial. A bit because, but we had this ACA problem in Flint because it happened all over the nation. In the midst of this pandemic, enrollment opened back up. And the numbers didn't really move that much. That new movement that we saw in ACA is because now the AMA, affordable care, is actually now affordable for people. You know, some people would pay as much as $600 to $800 a month for affordable health care. For a lot of people, that's not affordable. And it was a real sticky point because you get right in that spot where you make just enough money to not qualify for Medicaid, but too much money to get an ACA rate that you could actually afford. So a lot of people fell in that weird category. It's almost sort of like that working poor group. There's just really not a lot for people who make money, but make a little bit of money, right? You almost have to be poor or doing really, really well. So what happened with this new round of enrollment, and I know because we watched it happen right here in my community, we watched it happen in Michigan, is they started adding all of these rebates. And so you could now get ACA coverage potentially at levels that used to cost you $600 to $800 a month, now for as low as $10 a month.
What?
That's affordable. That's affordable. Yes, I had mentioned this on the show a little while back because I was on a crusade to make sure that everybody knew that. And I don't want to, dog anybody. But what I was telling people was affordable care is now affordable. Make sure that you go back and check. There are a lot of people who were just simply opting to pay the penalty on their taxes for not having health insurance because it was cost prohibitive. But yeah, so, in that $1.9 trillion was also money for affordable care. So that, I think, is what the shift was. Affordable care just became affordable. And I thought open enrollment, they reopened it. It may be closed now, but I'll check on it. I did make a quick announcement. And, of course, you immediately went to, this is why we need universal single-payer health care. And I said, yes. But in the meantime, affordable care has become affordable.
Absolutely.
So, reach out to your local health plan.
Well,
So if anybody's interested, if anybody does not have health insurance, and I say this all the time as well, you do not have health insurance, just go online, put in your county your city and the word health plan, almost every community has a local health plan. And the health plan's job is to get people health insurance. So that's number one. So where I live, it's called the Genesee Health Plan. Every city, most counties have a health plan. If you don't have health insurance, call your local federally qualified health center, FQHC. Again, put in your city or your county name and FQHC, federally qualified health center. And that is a place where, independent of your insurance status, you should always be able to get primary care. And at our FQHC, they provide oral health care, dental health, mental health, physical health. You can get all your vaccines, not just the COVID vaccine. It's a health home. So it's got vision services. It's got all of these great services under one big umbrella, because we know for a lot of people, even just getting over the hurdle to get to health care and get to your provider,
1 minute,
let alone having to go to multiple places. So it is a health home, and it's everything all under one big umbrella. So that's the good news on that.
Well, but that's it. But when we come back, you'll come back at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about the fact that preventive cancer screenings declined by 94% in the first 4 months of this pandemic. We're going to talk about that and what mothers and thus all of us really need. Got to talk about that with Dr. Jennifer and DRLD, a brilliant writer from ProPublica who did a lot of the digging on this issue. And a wonderful panel. We're going to talk about what mamas really need on the Santita
15.
WCPT 820 in Chicago. AM 950 Radio, Minneapolis.
10.
I want to hear from you. Call me or text me at 773-763-WCPT. More of the Santita Jackson Show just a few minutes. Thank you. Paul? Okay. Dr. Deb?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Next week, we're going to talk about vaccines and kids. Vaccines and kids and vaccines and pregnant women. Because the kids, they're opening up for kids. The 12 to 15. And then I think all the babies are going to be eligible pretty soon, because that clinical trials data is coming back now. And I think a lot of people are even looking forward to that, to get these kids back into summer school. I know it's a big conversation here. Big one.
It's a big conversation that people are having, because you know me, I am someone who that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I'd love to talk to you about that, because no, it does. And mind you, everybody, I support vaccines. I have been vaccinated like you would not believe. Not with this yet, but when you leave the country, when you go to certain countries, particularly down through the years, you've had to get vaccinated. Never thought about it. I just proceed very, very cautiously, and maybe because
we have Attorney Hoffler.
It's just something to think about. But we're going to call you back at the top of the hour, and
sure.
Okay, love you, sweetie.
Okay.
Attorney Hoffler.
Good morning.
How are you? We're waiting for.
I'm fine. How are you?
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, my dear. And happy Mother's Day to you. You have nieces and nephews and people who look up to you and who you nurture. And so you are a mother too.
My godchildren. Well, God mama. If God put me in your life, okay, I'll take the assignment. How about that? I'll take the assignment. It's been a blessing. I've been blessed with some wonderful young people in my life. But we're waiting for Rodney Ellis to call. But even then, I want to go through these restrictive measures, because boy, these people are rolling on with these voter restrictions. Everybody, don't you sleep on this. Don't you sleep on this. Everyone was excited about Raphael Warnock winning that seat. Let me tell you something. His seat is under real threat, just so that you know. Real threat. I mean, and just really your ability to vote. If it happened in Florida and Texas, it can and will happen to you. Yes, in blue states too, CK. It's
happened in Florida, Texas, but it started in Georgia.
Come on now. As much as I love Georgia, what's going on in the water down there? Okay. So now, Paul, do we have Commissioner Ellis up yet?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I was going to dial him again.
No, okay. Okay, good. Just let me know as soon as you can. Thank you so much. All right, all right, all right. This is unbelievable what these people are doing. And then DeSantis, of course, signed his in secret. He would only let Fox in.
Well, that was Georgia style.
Yeah.
That was Georgia style. He took a page from Georgia. Remember?
Yes.
The legislator that was arrested? So he did it Georgia style.
You mean the one who
We have Commissioner Ellis.
The felon. Let's go with Commissioner Ellis. How you doing with us this morning?
15.
Good morning. Good to hear your voice, and I understand Attorney CK
10.
is with us.
Hey, how are you?
But you're going to get
Good
things
morning.
kicked off.
5.
Troublemaker down there in Texas.
Well, we had a late night. They did pass the vote suppression bill, but it was late.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high.
We are victorious, everybody. Sounds of Blackness on the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Indeed, we took over the airways for Air America, and we've become America's go-to station for progressive talk. AM 950 radio, my home in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me, text me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. So much is going on in the world today. So much is going on as we're looking at the trial of George Floyd, and we've been consumed with that, and good reason. As we see infrastructure discussed, as we are now reopening the economy, society, I'm not so sure, but certainly the economy is being reopened. More and more people are eager to get out there. How safe are we? On and on and on it goes. In the meantime, we are now officially in the election season. I know 2020 just happened. I understand that. But guess what? We are in the election season, and these Republicans are not playing around. They are passing legislation in the state legislatures that are restricting your access to the vote, your ability to vote. Let's just put it right where we can get it. More and more. Florida signed this election bill into law. The governor, DeSantis, he did it without the press present. That's right. He barred local media outlets from covering his signing of SB 90, the latest state level voter suppression law. Can you believe it? The media, well, it used to be the press, and they were not allowed to cover it. But something, I don't know what it is. I don't know what. Of course, it started in Georgia, and we've seen it course on through Florida. But Texas, you all do something real special. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, the people's attorney, of course, the president of the National Bar Association. Let us welcome our brother beloved, the beleaguered one, to Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, who's been up all night long, but he got up early to be with us today because everybody's talking about Florida. People are really talking about Texas. What did you do down there? This is supposed to be one of the most restrictive voting laws, if not the most restrictive in the country. What did you do? What was passed?
It passed the bill passed the Texas House about 3 a.m. The Democrats had what I thought were a very thoughtful procedural tactics. They had a good point of order. And the way that normally works, if you have a point of order that might be sustained, the leadership will try to peel off a few votes, put on a couple of amendments that appear to make a bill less restrictive. And usually they'll say, well, okay, if we take your amendments, will you vote for it? Go ahead and pass the bill, then go to what's called a conference committee, and then probably end up with the most restrictive stuff that they wanted to begin with. About 3 a.m., pretty much party line vote, 81 to 64.
I'm not sure who the few D's were that voted for it. They probably weren't really needed 150 members in the House, so 76 votes. You could get it out anyway. They'll have one more procedural vote on Friday. Then it'll go to a conference committee. But the new amendments soften some of the initial penalties that were proposed for those who run afoul of the rules, and added that the police could be called to remove an unruly partisan poll watcher. Other amendments that Democrats will push it to expand ballot access, including changes to the ballot layout with voter registration in high schools, and a few other amendments. But I think it'll end up being probably at the end of the day, when it goes to Governor Abbott's desk, one of the most restrictive in the country. We already have some of the most restrictive voting laws in the country, but because the governor wants to run for president, we are the biggest of the red meat states, even worse than Florida in some ways, because they do have initiatives in referendum in Florida. It's difficult. You got to raise a lot of money. But in Florida, they can go put it on the ballot. So, look, it was a bad day for democracy. We'll go to court. A lot of this was aimed at Harris County, which includes Houston, where I live and work, because we went from being one of the embarrassments of the nation to a bright spot with the young brother, Chris Holland from Morehouse, might I add, C.K. Hoffler, and Harvard and Yale. We had record turnout in Harris County, and they want to stop that. Drive-through voting, 24-hour voting, expanded hours for early voting for people who work, all of that they want to take away. We are going, this is Jim Crow too. And in some ways even worse for this reason. We know better. And at least when people had to count the jelly beans in a jar, recite the Constitution that pleased whoever was asking, back then at least we had some people in the Republican Party who were opposed to it. And then you had a lot of Southern Democrats, by the way, who were for it. Now it's lockstep. People do it with no impunity, all based on the big lie coming out of the White House last go around, as though that was voter fraud. So it's a pretty sad day.
What is this going to look like? I mean, because we're moving right into the election season. I know many of us don't want to think about that because the 2020 election season, it was a lot. But we're moving into the midterms. What will Texans not be able to do now that they were able to do just in 2020?
You won't be able to get a mail-in ballot if you're eligible sent to you from the government. So that means if one party has more money than the other, the Republican Party normally does, a candidate who has more money can send you a absentee ballot. You don't have to request it under what we were doing, but now you have to request one. Or if the person who wants your vote has more money, or the party has more money, then they'll send you one. But the government cannot. It means that there'll be restrictions on how many polling places a county official can put in certain neighborhoods. It probably means you will reduce the number of polling places in Black and Hispanic communities. We'll have no drive-through voting. We'll have no, one day we had 24-hour around-the-clock voting, and people were voting in the middle of the night. We'll have these poll watchers who can go in and film what you do. That's an intimidation tactic. It'll be more difficult to put some unruly partisan activist out of a polling place if they're carrying on in a polling place. It'll be easier for someone to be prosecuted if they assist someone. If you try to assist your dad, as an example, he has a mail-in ballot, he's eligible, if he was in Texas, has problems dealing with Parkinson's on marking things on the ballot. There'll be challenges for you to help him, a number of hoops that one has to go through. It's pretty sad. And let me tell you, if the John Lewis Voting Rights Act does not pass before September, all of this stuff in these states will go into effect. In Texas, our laws generally go into effect in September. I don't think they'll give enough votes to give them immediate effect. I assume primaries in a number of states will be delayed next year because of redistricting court challenges. There'll be court challenges to this bill in Texas, the one in Florida, the one in Iowa, the one in Georgia. Hopefully, from the Justice Department, in addition to, I'm sure C.K. Hoffa can talk about that. They will be filing lawsuits as well. It takes deep pockets. If you have the stature of the Justice Department, it helps. You know, our county attorney here, young, progressive, a thoughtful lawyer, will file. I think he'll work it in conjunction with groups like CK's group, National Bar Association, ACLU, and others to see who ought to be the lead. But it takes deep pockets, particularly when you're suing a governmental entity. If you sue in the state of Texas, state of Florida, state of Georgia, because they have an open checkbook. So it's a big challenge. It's going to make it harder for people to vote. I assume they put the provision back in where you can't go get people water when they stand in long lines. They were doing that at Texas Southern before we reformed the procedures here, before Democrats took over in Harris County. The last person voted something ridiculous like 3 a.m. in the morning. So you couldn't go out there and give that person food or water. My staff did that. Paid for it out of my campaign. I was not on the ballot. But we want to go out there and help people. Encourage them to stay in the line in the middle of the night to vote. But you won't be able to do that anymore in Texas.
Do you have any recourse?
The courts, or if the federal government comes in. We're going to keep pushing the governor to veto the bill. That's an uphill battle, but you have to do it. You go through a process. You know, we pressured our Chamber of Commerce here, by the way. It's called the Great Houston Partnership to come out and oppose these bills. They put out a fairly weak statement, reluctant to take a position on it for fear of offending someone. I'm so proud of Delta Airlines and business leaders in Atlanta for coming out front, and black CEOs nationwide who spoke out publicly. And so we pressured our partnership, our chamber. They didn't come out, so the mayor pulled out of his State of the City address before the Chamber of Commerce, and the county judge, who presides over the board I serve on. She pulled out of her speech to let them know that this is serious. People take this very seriously. It's a challenging time in this country, and it really is an embarrassment for our democracy. It's the kind of thing that the UN people ought to say, what kind of sanctions should we put on America for backing up on voter participation issues? It is a sad day in this country.
Well, maybe you need to have President Carter come down and observe your elections like he does all over the world.
Yeah. And a number of foreign countries will say we need to send election observers over to watch this. But it's pretty sad. I hope they can get the 50 votes in the Senate. They'll have to do away with the filibuster, even if it's just limited for this issue. So whatever Senator Manchin, the new senator from Arizona, need to hear, I hope that your listeners are telling those two in particular, at least as it relates to the most sacred thing we have in this country, our right to participate in this democracy. We shouldn't go back to the things that your dad and so many others marched and fought, some died to end. And those awful Jim Crow laws. It really is Jim Crow, too. And it's an embarrassment to this country.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Texas Harris County Commissioner, says that our recourse, the courts. Where do we go from here?
Well, Santita, and good morning again, Santita, and good morning, Rodney. And, Rodney has been fighting and fighting and fighting. I want to say for decades. I don't want to age anybody, but for decades. A true, extraordinarily effective and magnificent. I want to call you a freedom fighter because you're always on the side of the people, Rodney. But, I will say that the courts are really, there are two things. I think Rodney's laid it out very nicely. We have to pass federal voting rights legislation, the John Lewis Voter Restoration Act. We have to. There's no choice because state by state by state by state, Republicans are very, very methodical, meticulous, well-funded, and manipulative in taking down these states through passing voter suppression laws. And they're getting worse. I thought that there was nothing worse than Georgia. I thought there was nothing worse. You remember, Santita, I was about to get on your show, and I called you and said, Santita, I'm in line waiting to vote, which I thought to be 10 minutes tops, Rodney. 5.5 hours later, I'm in line waiting to vote. I'm almost there. Ridiculous. In the course of that, me, myself, and I would have been arrested under under Georgia's current laws at least 5 times because I always carry water. I have kids, so I carry water, I carry snacks. And there were people, elderly people in line. Actually, there were just people in line who didn't have any water, who didn't come equipped, and they had been standing on their feet. So if I had done what I did then, now, I would have been arrested at least 5, maybe 6 times. This has got to stop. I think what people are losing sight on, I felt that the voting suppression tactics began on January 6th. That should have been our sign. That was our signal that it's going downhill in terms of preserving the right to vote, which, by the way, is nonpartisan. That's a nonpartisan issue. So the recourse that we have is, yes, the passage of the federal legislation, and we've got to, just as we're doing Georgia, just as it's going to happen in Florida, just as it will happen in Texas, we've got to fight in the courts. We have to fight on all levels. On a federal level, it is my prayer, and I'm pretty sure that the Justice Department will get involved, but it's my prayer that that happens soon. We don't have time for, intellectualizing these issues. It has to happen soon. We have to fight on a federal level, on a statewide level, and on a local level. And we've got to stop electing people who are in favor of and who are pushing these voter suppression laws. We have to stop that. We have the power to elect people on a local level, on a state level. So I think that there are so many things that we can do. I'm optimistic that we will get it done, but we don't have a lot of time. You spoke on the top of the hour, Santita, about Raphael Warnock. I felt that Raphael Warnock's position as U.S. Senator from Georgia was in jeopardy the day after he won on January 6th. And at that point, that's when many Georgians began mobilizing because we saw what it was. When there was an attempted coup d'etat of this country, because we got to call it what it is, insurrection, people. No, coup d'etat. They tried to take over the government on January 6th. That was a sign right there of what was to come. And sure enough, this is what we're seeing. From violent coup d'etat attempts to the same thing in the legislatures throughout this country, there's an effort amidst that is being successful. So the only way to fight it is through the courts on multiple levels and through the passage of federal legislation. That's what we have to do. And we just got to get up off of it and do it.
Well, no. I don't want you all to stop because, you and Commissioner Ellis, have been fighting this fight for a long time. When he talks about all the work that Reverend has done, I'm like, where were you? You were right there. I mean, what are you talking about? You've been doing this work with him for decades. Commissioner Ellis, I want to know from you, what is it that, what is the justification? What is the rationale for imposing all of these, all of these barriers to voting? I mean, because they're saying something to somebody.
So it's a fear on the part of Republicans of the changing demographics of this country. I mentioned on the show before, Harris County is about 4.8 million people. City of Houston is the most diverse city in the country, and so is the county. I mean, it's not just black and white; it's brown, it's South Asian, various ethnic groups from around the world. We're very much a microcosm here in Texas of what America would be. I think Georgia has now joined the ranks of a minority state, about 6 minority states in the country. So many others are following that rapidly. And that people who have a fear of this diverse tent. It's also a direct response to Donald Trump controlling the Republican Party. He lost fair and square, couldn't take it. And so he created this so-called big lie of voter issues as though it was voter fraud. And they're all falling in line lockstep. It's going back to the 60s, the 50s, and 40s. It's really, really pretty ridiculous. But, when they ended straight ticket, first they ended in Texas, straight ticket voting. Same thing that helped the Grand Old Party get in power, and they still have a long ballot I mean, it's long. And then, county government, it's the last thing on the ballot. And some people just don't want to go through the whole deal, both D's and R's. Some of them want to go in, hit the straight ticket, and get it over with. So they changed that, assuming it would hurt Democrats now. We don't know. We'll find out in this next cycle. This last election was the first time we did it, and we still did well. And a lot of people showing up because they were angry over the Trump administration. To be honest with you, as great as the Biden-Harris team was, Donald Trump did a lot to encourage a lot of people. And in part, with all great work that Stacey Abrams and others did in Georgia, and C.K. Hoffman, her great work, Donald Trump and his party did help. Well, there's a fear of that. And let me tell you, to get around it, we really have to go back in the streets. You're right. I was following your dad's lead and so many others. And we still have to, even when we get older and get tired, we got to fight these battles that we thought were behind us. Some people, Santita, when your dad ran in 1984, even Democrats were fearful because it brought out so many new people. And sometimes when somebody's been in politics a long time, you have a fear of young voters coming out because they may not have kept up with your record, or times may have changed. They may not remember those. They don't hear about those old battle wars of years ago. What have you done for me lately? But look, it's appropriate. I want to protect the right of Republicans to vote, Democrats to vote, people who vote for me and people who vote against me. Well, and that's the way it ought to work in this country. But we've gotten away from that, and we got to raise hell with them to get it back. I'm fearful of what will happen in the courts, particularly in my circuit, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, going to the Fifth Circuit. Thurgood Marshall always tried to avoid the Fifth Circuit. You had to have just the most egregious stuff, like integrating the University of Texas. You wouldn't have done Brown versus the board to go to the Fifth Circuit, go somewhere else. But he started off trying to integrate golf courses, you know what I mean? And integrate graduate schools. That's what Sweat versus Painter was about. So I'm fearful. And then at the Supreme Court, the way it has been stacked, the Biden administration, there are a lot of challenges that President Biden and Vice President Harris have before. And with such a razor-thin margin in the Senate, and usually the party in power loses power, the White House party loses power in midterm elections in the House. I pray we got to do everything we can to keep that from happening, but it's a razor-thin margin, about 5 or 6 votes, by which Democrats control the United States House. And as we go into midterm elections, it's a challenging. There are more Republican Senate seats up that are vulnerable, I hope, than Democratic seats. That's fueling some of this. They want to imagine Iowa. It's not just a Southern thing. They got with ALEC, American Legislative Exchange group, right-wing group, and put these laws in states all around the country where Republicans are in control of the state house and state senate and the governor's bench.
We're talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis about these newly instituted voter restrictions. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. In fact, they are now filing lawsuits as we speak to try and open up the process. Attorney Hoffler, I've got a minute and then a minute for the commissioner. What do you want us to do? What do we do? And do you see this? Well, this is happening all over the country, CK.
Well, what I want people to do, and what we want people to do at the National Bar Association, is keep their eye on the prize. Remember that the right to vote is worth fighting for. The right to vote is being challenged, and so you should support those people, those organizations that are fighting for your right to vote, because we don't know what it's going to be. The people in our generation and the younger people, they don't know what it's going to be arrested for passing out water. It is passing out food, for helping the elderly. It's coming, and that is oppressive. So you've got to support those organizations that are supporting and pushing for the right to vote and fighting and challenging. Rainbow Push is one of them that has always been fighting for that. Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights, the ACLU, all of these organizations, the National Bar, are fighting and filing cases, and they all have partners in this, NAACP and others, are fighting and filing cases against these voter suppression laws so that you might have the right to vote. So recognition of that, supporting the organizations, and by the way, joining them and being a part of nonviolent efforts and protests.
Well, in fact,
nonviolent.
But I'm up against the clock. I got about a little more than a minute left because we have our Rainbow Push convention. Commissioner Ellis, June 20th through the 24th. This clearly has to be something we have to talk about because you said we really have like a September deadline. The last minute belongs to Commissioner Ellis.
We do. I would say don't give up. We just fought too hard, come too far, waited too long. We just sit back and let it happen without a fight. Make noise. Find somebody in West Virginia, black, white, brown, whatever, Democrat or Republican, get to know them, work them on social media. Ask them to push Senator Manchin to work with the Democrats and reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. That's the most important thing we can do. Make noise on your state level. Make people feel
1 minute.
Go march, do whatever, put it on social media. Just don't give up. Thank you, Santita, for having us. CK, I love you. Always good to see you. I'm going to call you. Hear about Mayor Bottoms. I'm so proud of what she did and just want to get to the story, what's happening.
Amen, amen.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Give Leisha my love. My fellow bison.
I will.
That's right. His wife.
We were in school I won't together. Wake up, though.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you for today.
30.
No, thank you for what you
thank
do.
You.
That's what this platform is for. That's why we talk about this. Everybody, sending you much love. Love you, Commissioner Rodney Ellis.
Thank you.
Everybody, let's talk about what women really need, what mothers really need, what our society
15.
really needs. Preventive cancer
10.
screening, CK, declined by 94% in the first 4 months of the pandemic. Now we're beginning to see the fallout of that. People are very sick. People are dying. What are we going to do about that? Stay right here with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Mother's Day edition. CK Hoffler, thank you so much. I know you're not leaving yet.
No, I'm not. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I know the segment on the women's thing, you sent that to me as well. So I'll be able to stay for that for a little bit. But this is, we're just going crazy here. I mean, honestly, there's something very wrong with what's happening in this country. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what in the world is happening?
You know what? I think what we're doing is we come back to front. The issues of monarchy and oligarchy were unsettled. I think we have to remember that you had the royalists in the United States. There was a real fight as to whether we were going to remain a colony or not. And so we've traded out monarchs for oligarchs. We have new kings and queens in America. And I think that Americans are going to have to get very, very serious about claiming the government that is of, for, and by them. This is where, because the idea was for us not to vote, right? Just that was never the point. That was never the point. Never the point. Never the point. And we have Miss LD who's done this fantastic work in ProPublica. Do I LD?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
Oh, look, so excited that you're with us. We've got attorney C.K. Hoffler with us. She's the president of the National Bar Association, which is the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. More than 65,000
Good
members.
morning.
And she's also the chair of Rainbow Push. And so we have a lot of people who are going to be listening to this morning because we're really talking about what women need. How about that? What we need.
Oh, absolutely.
What we need. If you want to talk about Mother's Day, my mother will look at you like you are crazy.
We have Melanie.
Say, thank you. And now CK and Dua LD, if you want some really fabulous clothes, really, and they're beautiful. Mostly they're modest. I think I hear something in the background, so make sure we're not moving anything in the background. Melanie.
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
She goes by
Good
her
morning,
first name.
Santita, and to the rest of the panel.
She goes by her first name, even on her website. Thank you, Mel. That's why I was asking. I was like, she gave
Absolutely.
no last name. I said, okay, so she's like Cher and Tina. I love it. But what I was going to say to you, Dua. I mean, are you Muslim?
We have Dr. Knight.
Yes.
If you want some really fabulous clothes that would really fit into your lifestyle and into your particular strictures, she's got these clothes.
Oh, I would love to hear them.
Oh yeah. So I mean, even because look, I have a lot of girlfriends who are from the Middle East and who are from North Africa and who are African and who are Muslim, and they dress flawlessly. You know, everyone. Let's be very clear. They just Minister Farrakhan's daughters are dressed to the nines, makeup done. What? Yes, they are, but they are dressed modestly. I mean, as Muslim women dress. But if you want these clothes, like the really great harem pants and the flowing dresses
We have
that
Attorney
are really
Connolly.
fabulous. She's got all of that. She's got all of that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I would love to see them.
Now, you see, she woke up, Melanie.
Wait,
Do you see how her voice changed? She was supposed to be talking about cancer and all of that. And now she said, what? Wait a minute. I'm ashamed.
well, that's what we. I'm in the waking up business.
Oh my gosh, what did she just do? She said, oh. Well, you know what? It's Essential Elements of Chicago. And you go online and look it up, but that doesn't even begin to tell the story. It doesn't begin to tell the story of the clothes that she has. So, because in fact, I'm wearing this necklace that I'm wearing today, everybody, and these bracelets. I got this there, right? So
I'm looking at you, Santita.
yes, I promised Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, who I'm going to introduce you to. I'm getting you all kinds of customers. I promised her I'd wear her shirt this morning, which really affirms women. But I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? You know, I can't just go with the shirts. How about that? So I put on this necklace and the bracelets. And if you were watching me right now, you'd love it. And this all fits, like I told you, into your wheelhouse, I'm telling you.
I love the idea of women supporting other women.
Oh, absolutely. Well, when they make sense. When they make sense. When they don't make sense, I gotta say, now, sister, you have lost me here. Yes, I will say that. But absolutely. But and that's what we have to do. And women-owned businesses. And this is a woman-owned business, and it is a black-owned.
We have Dr. Furholden.
Thank you. Give us the address real quick, because we're on Facebook, Mel.
Right. So, yeah, absolutely. We're located at 1640 East 87th Street.
In Chicago.
That's about a half a block. In Chicago, a half a block east of Stony Island. Convenient free parking in a lot adjacent to the building, just east of the building. So you don't have to worry about the metered street parking. And we're open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, and we're closed on Sunday and Monday.
And what are the range of sizes that you wear?
Oh, yeah, all sizes. So we start at a 4 and we go up to a 24, and sometimes 26. It all depends.
Yeah, and then some. So,
and then some, right?
Ladies, you want to go there. You really, really do. And I was just telling, as you could hear me, I was telling Dua that Muslims
back in 20.
Very, very comfortable there, because you've just got the clothes that that fit. Plus, I think that also women of color, when you go to the continent, when you go throughout the world, we just modestly. This, revealing
5 seconds.
clothing is not something that we do. That's just not.
No, it's not.
It's not attractive. I'm sorry.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are
for Peace. I'm Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show, and we are victorious. Thank you, Sounds of Blackness, for letting us use that music. I am Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, is my home station, along with AM 950 Radio. Minneapolis, St. Paul, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and all over the country and all over the world. I want you to meet my morning stars, the Santita Jackson Morning Stars, over on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook, where we are streaming live. And of course, my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show channel. Please go over there where we are streaming live. And of course, I'm also over on the Reverend Jesse Jackson channel and WCPT, well, not channel, but Facebook page and WCPT Facebook page. Please get on over there, everybody. Let's talk about so much that we've got to discuss today. Mother's Day for Peace. As we get into the show, as we talk about preventive cancer screenings declining by 94% in the first 4 months of this pandemic, and we're seeing the fallout of that. We've got a brilliant young reporter, Dua El Deeb from ProPublica, who's going to talk with us about that. And we're going to have a discussion with women about what it is that we really, really need on this Mother's Day. It's not just flowers, everybody, not platitudes. We need some action. We need some action, and we're going to be talking about that. But I want to remind you that Mother's Day is actually Mother's Day for Peace. Anna Jarvis and Julia Ward Howe. These great women pioneered this holiday, and they were Anna Jarvis was looking for sanitation, sanitized conditions in which families could live. These were women of substance. Julia Ward Howe, who wrote the lyrics to the Battle Hymn of the Republic, was a suffragist. She was fighting for women to vote in the 1800s. She was fighting for Black people to be freed from slavery. She was an abolitionist. She was a great thinker. She was a woman of her time and ahead of her time. And in the aftermath of the Civil War, she said, look, she looked around at women in the North and the South who said, whether we support the Confederacy or the Union, these women, these mothers, cared for all of the soldiers because they said, that's somebody's son. So whether he's fighting for this cause that I support or against it, I'm going to take care of him. So coming out of that war, that initially we said there were 600,000 people who died. Now we're seeing that there are more than 800,000 who were killed. We've never seen anything like this in the United States. And in fact, the numbers continue to rise as we perfect how we measure uh, who were the casualties of this war. She said, I'm going to call out to all women all over the world, regardless of our ethnicities, our colors, our backgrounds, and we are going to end war. And so she wrote this poem, everybody. It was originally Mother's Day for Peace, and we need to revive that ourselves. Mother's Day for Peace. She wrote in 1870, Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall now come to us, reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. Keep that in mind as you celebrate Mother's Day for Peace. Let us go back to the old landmark and to the true meaning of Mother's Day. Everybody, the Rainbow Push Coalition Convention, June 20th through the 24th. And of course, in Chicago today, we're going to have a high of 55 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 57 degrees, mostly sunny. The Dow closed up 318 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 50 points. The S&P 500 closed up 34 points. And in Major League Baseball, well, the Rangers bested the Twins 4-3 yesterday. But they might be able to come back today as as the Twins face off against the Detroit Tigers, The Cubs will be facing off against the Pirates, and the White Sox will be playing the Kansas City Royals, everybody. Wow, Florida has enacted voting restrictions that are just stunning. Texas has moved to follow, and what will that mean? No drop boxes, shorter hours or fewer drop boxes, fewer hours. really greater hurdles. You're not going to be able to give people water standing in line, and on and on and on and on. We need to think about that, everybody, and act and act. We have really a deadline of September to get these things changed. Governor Pritzker, along with many other governors, he is planning to open up Illinois perhaps as early as June 11th, everybody. Are you ready for that? Did you know that Governor DeSantis he actually signed this voter restriction measure. He signed this anti-voting bill behind closed doors. He only allowed Fox News to cover it. Everybody else, all local media outlets, were refused entry. Can you believe that? COVID forecasters are warning that deaths in India may double in the coming weeks and might reach 1 million persons. Wow. Let's think about this, everybody. Everyone looks at these stories about the so called developing world. You know, Africa, Asia, most of the world, and how poor they are. And yet we see all of these Western companies over there. Well, it turns out that in a paper published by the New Political Economy, it turns out that actually these developing nations are not the debtors, they're the creditors. This study shows that 152 trillion with the dollars is how much money wealthy countries have drained from the global south since 1960. 152 trillion dollars. Um Can you believe that? Think about that. We're going to talk about that next week on the Santita Jackson Show. And as we go into talking about really caring for ourselves, one of my dear friends who we're going to talk to in the next hour, you all always ask me about my clothes. I know this might sound like a bit of a diversion, but it's not. Um, One of my favorite places on earth to shop is a place that's owned by a black woman here in Chicago, and it's called Essential Elements. Essential Elements of Chicago. I want you to go and look them up. Go online. These fabulous clothes. You see my bracelets, my rings, all that, my necklace. That came from there, among many other things, and from 4 to 24. But actually, it's like from 0 to 30. There's no reason for you not to be able to find something fabulous in this store. It's so good for us to love ourselves from the inside out, but the outside in does matter too. There's nothing like, don't you love watching makeover shows? Don't you love them? Melanie, are you there with me right now?
I'm here.
Okay. Give it to me real quick because we're going to go to Dua El Deep. Of course, she got very excited as we're talking about this very serious topic. She got more excited about you than being on the show, but that's okay. We love you. We love you in essential. We love you in Essential Elements. And what can we find there when we go?
So, our niche, which has made us very special in Chicago, especially the south side of Chicago, is to curate very unique items from small design houses around the world. And I could name off some names, and Santita would be saying, yes, Run Host, Trippin' Shoes, Igor Dobronic from Croatia, and Run Host is Germany, Trippin' is Germany. Very special items that quote unquote, stereotypically may not be found in our area, but that customer is in our area. So it makes us very special in that sense that, the local women are feeding off of it, but also we are a destination for many people who come far and wide and travelers as well. That makes us special, but also, like Santita was saying, it's not just about dressing the outside. It's a haven. You come in, we want you to feel like you're just going through your big closet trying to find something that will make you feel better than you did when you leave out. And my team is very personable, not pushy. We have fun. We like to dress ladies. We like for them to put on something that they may not have even considered putting on, and just make you feel happy. And especially during these times where we're starting to get out a little more, we're starting to attend events a little more, and we've been pinned up. And, in the fashion arena, we had coined this new leisure, at-home leisure, sweatpants, joggers, cotton clothing,
and we pivoted and we did some of that, but it's exciting now to kind of open up more. We're selling more dresses than we have sold in a very long time. Ladies are buying dresses, and I must say, we have beautiful dresses.
Yes, beautiful things. And you know what? I want you to get out and do that. And which brings me to Dua El Deeb, who is from ProPublica. And I wanted her to meet you today, Mel, and I wanted other people to meet you because this is one of these wonderful businesses that survived the pandemic, that's in the middle of the Black community. And Nina, up north, come on down this way because Nina dresses like this. Nina Gegenheimer. This is one of our morning stars. She would love this, and everybody would love it. And I asked Dua. I said, "Are you Muslim?" Because I saw your profile picture, and she said, "Yes." I said, "You're gonna love this. You're gonna love it because you can be modest and fabulous, everybody." So let me bring on Dua El Deeb to our show, and she has really a tremendous report, and I was struck by it. And I reached out to her, and she agreed immediately to be on the show. A crisis of undiagnosed cancers is emerging in the pandemic's second year. As we're looking at what mothers need, at what women need, we need our health, Dua. We need our health. And I was shocked when I read, I hadn't even gotten into, I guess, the second page of the report when you said, wait a minute, 94 across the country, preventive cancer screenings plummeted by as much as 94% during the first 4 months of last year, which was our pandemic. What has been the impact of that, Dua?
It's been far reaching, let me tell you. And thank you again for having me on this morning, and especially just before Mother's Day, because a mother's love for her family is really at the heart of this story. And with that, a son's love for his mother, and kind of how that love really comes full circle. And so thank you for having me on today, and especially on this very special day. Like you said, this was shocking for me even to report, because this story also looks at what happened when we weren't looking, when we were all focused on COVID. And immediately after the pandemic hit, preventative cancer screenings dropped by as much as 94% across the country. And what we know about cancer screenings is that they can detect cancer early, which can then reduce the chance of dying from cancer. So think about colonoscopies, mammograms, PSA tests for prostate cancer. And all of those things took a huge hit after the pandemic surge. And then along with that, hospitals and clinics, oncology clinics shut down, many of them right after. So chemo and radiation were either suspended or delayed. And then in addition to that, kind of the third whammy was that some people were getting annual screenings, some people weren't, but once they felt something, they felt a lump, or, they saw something else concerning, they would give their doctor a call and they would go in for a primary care visit. But that too wasn't happening. So all of that combined led to this huge drop in diagnoses, as much as 50% in some cases. And so it led to this illusion that people weren't getting cancer, but no, people were getting cancer. They just weren't getting diagnosed.
The story? I mean, the stories that you've told are just really stunning to me, because this is literally costing people their lives, because women were having to decide between. Well, first of all, you couldn't get an appointment because everything shut down last year, right? But then these women had to make some real hardcore decisions. I mean, I've got to keep my job. So, I can't pay attention to this right now. This can't be my priority because there's so much other stuff going on. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so at the center of the story is a woman named Teresa Rubakova. She's a 48-year-old factory worker, a mother of three, and she spent nearly half of her life working at the same Chicago candy factory. And she, when the pandemic hit, and work slowed down for some people were able to work from home. She was not. She kept working, In fact, when her colleagues were calling in sick because of COVID, she was working overtime. She was covering for them. And she was working so hard because she was afraid of losing her job. She was afraid that she would then fall behind again on her mortgage. She wouldn't be able to provide for her family. So all of these factors she had to take into consideration, in addition to also being afraid of going to the doctor or the ER in the middle of the pandemic. She had kind of, figured out a set of protocols for herself when she was going into the factory. She was wearing double masks. She was, wearing gloves. And so she felt safe. But, she worried that if she went to the doctor, she would put all of that at risk. But unfortunately, it got to the point where, after this happened last year and after, months and months of this, the pain was just unbearable. So she scheduled a telehealth visit. And during the telehealth visit, the doctor couldn't examine her in person. But over the screen, she told her that, look, it looks like an infection. Here are some antibiotics. But of course, it wasn't an infection. And she, a few days later, after she broke down in tears, and her children said, we're going to take you to the doctor, to the emergency room at Mount Sinai. She met with an oncologist, and she was later diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer.
That is unbelievable. How, and I know this has been replicated over and over and over again, because these frontline workers who could not work remotely, these are the choices. What do you think could have mitigated that? I mean, what could we have done differently to have avoided this?
I mean, like you said, these are the choices. These are the impossible choices that people are forced to make. And so, it's interesting, since this story ran, I've received several emails and messages on Twitter from people saying, my aunt died just like this. My dad died just like this. Having been diagnosed with cancer and having to delay care during the pandemic. But one woman reached out to me, and she was thankful for the story and said she was diagnosed with cancer almost exactly 1 year ago. But she said she worked a flexible job. She was able, as soon as she saw the symptoms, to go in. She didn't have to worry about, financial considerations. She went to the doctor in person, as soon as she felt symptoms, and now she's doing so much better.
It's amazing. As we are in this Mother's Day season, this is not the Hallmark story. We're speaking with Dua El Deeb. She is a brilliant journalist from ProPublica, and she's brought to us an issue that you might be facing, and it's not just cancer. Remember, COVID is the third biggest killer of in the United States of people, of Americans. We've got cancer, we've got heart attacks, we've got strokes. I mean, all of that was still going on while we are still in this pandemic. Do you think now, how have her employers handled her? What about her insurance?
So she has, insurance through her employer. She's, worked there, like I said, for more than 20 years. But unfortunately, even with the insurance, it's not enough. It's not enough to cover the family's expenses. And, I think the other thing, I mentioned earlier that her son has really stepped up. Her son is 24 years old. He graduated from college, and he's kind of put his life on hold to help his mother. And he had planned to go to medical school. He delayed it, and he delayed it again. And now that his mother is so sick, he's delaying it once again. He's working a full-time job. He's helping support the family, but still, again, it's just not enough.
I'm wondering how often this story is replicated all over the country, everybody. Think about this. Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Does she need a Hallmark card? No disrespect to Hallmark. I love Hallmark. But does she need a card or does she need a change in policy? Think about that, everybody. How different would her life be if we had a national healthcare plan in place that would have been able to help us in this pandemic, that would have been able to, getting a test for her would not have been difficult. What about that? I mean, Dua LD, what? I know this, and this is, as you said, it's a crisis of undiagnosed cancers that is emerging. I mean, it's happened. It's happened all over the place, particularly with these frontline workers, with these workers who could not work remotely. These workers who had to go in, maybe even at the risk of getting COVID, when we were all scared of it last year, frightened to death. What do you think? I mean, because when I think of her son, I pray that he will be able to get to medical school. And I think that if he holds on and holds out, he will. He'll be an even better physician because of this. He really will. Because indeed.
It's interesting.
Yes, no, please, Dua.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't think of it. I'm just saying that, that's exactly what he said. He said that, after seeing the way that COVID, has ravaged communities of color, after seeing, witnessing his mother's cancers firsthand, it has really underscored his determination to be a doctor, to serve marginalized communities, and to get back to his plans for medical school even more than he had planned once he graduated in 2019. I'll tell you something else, another statistic that just floored me when I heard it, when I read it while I was researching for this story. The National Cancer Institute predicted almost 10,000 excess deaths over the next decade from breast and colorectal cancer alone because of
30.
pandemic-related delays in diagnosis and treatment.
Dua LD, everybody. I want you to read this article. I have it posted on my page, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and I want you to forward it. A crisis of undiagnosed
15.
cancers is emerging in the pandemic's second year. Wow.
10.
Screenings dropped by 94% in the first 4 months. Preventive cancer screenings.
5.
We've got to do better, everybody. What do women really need? What do mothers need? What do families need? On this Mother's Day weekend, Mother's Day for Peace. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Melanie Whaley, why don't you give Dua LD your information? Of course, we're on Facebook Live, but give her and everyone the number to Essential Elements. Dua, I promise you're going to love me forever, Dua. I promise you.
I already do.
You're going to be very happy.
I think the web address is probably the best way to go because you'll get all the information there. So you can find us at www.shopeechicago, spelled completely out, .com. So shopeechicago.com.
Okay, everybody.
All of our hours, find the hours, and you can really get a peek inside what we do, who we are, what we do, and certainly I'm sure that you'll be mesmerized.
You will. I promise you.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. Thank you.
You're going to enjoy
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dua. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you for having me on and for spotlighting this. And, like we said, this was something that I don't think a lot of us, definitely not me, realized. Now as we're in our second year of the pandemic, we're realizing just how big of a crisis it is. And, one thing I wish I mentioned on air, which I didn't, which is that it's expected to hit communities of color hardest because we were already at a disadvantage when it came to cancer survival rates before the pandemic.
Absolutely. And you know what do we have Dr. Shanina Knighton with us?
Yes, I'm here.
And we have Dr. Deborah Verholden. C.K. Hoffler, you're there? Is everybody on mute? Okay, Paul, who do we have?
I'm here, Santita. I
Okay.
did have you on mute. I'm here, Santita.
Okay.
For just a few more minutes.
Okay, no worries. And who do we have? Who do we have on with us? Paul, who do we have?
I'm Santita. This is Erin Connolly.
Okay, Aaron. Okay. We have Aaron.
Tua LD, Attorney Hoffler, Melanie, Dr. Knighton, Attorney Connolly, and Chaparral.
Okay, very, very good. I just need to know who we have. Can you send me a text with that just really quickly? Thanks so much. Okay, but CK, I'm going to let you comment on what you've heard. Very quickly. I can hear something in the background. Okay. All right, everybody. Just make sure we're in a quiet area. Chaparral, you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
All right. Okay, everybody. I'm going to have you all react to these stories. Are you still with us?
I'm here.
You're more than welcome to stay. I told you.
Okay, but you're done with me, so I can just listen.
You can listen and you can contribute. Trust me. No, we don't. I don't do like that. Look, we all have opinions. Stay right there. You'll see.
No. I was just no. I served my purpose. So thank you so much for having me. And I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else you needed from me.
Well,
no, thank you, and I look forward to hearing from the rest of the panelists.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the listening audience before you go?
No, it's I
30.
The only thing I would say
Hold on, I'm going to bring you up and let you do it. Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's important. All right, everybody, stay right there.
15. 10. 5.
Answers.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are victorious.
Love it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mother's Day edition of Mother's Day for Peace. Santita Jackson Show. That is the original idea of all of this. The Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820 in Chicago and AM 950 Radio Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all around the country and all around the world. Meet up with my morning stars over here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show channel. Please. And then WCPT carries us also. Hey. Oh, my goodness. And I want you to get registered for the Rainbow Push Convention. A lot of it will be virtual. Some of it will be in person. We're going to see just how much, but it will be virtual. But we'll be talking about these issues and more. June 20th through the 24th. You do not want to miss it. Go to rainbowpush.org for more information. Dua El Deeb, who's written this magnificent piece, A Crisis of Undiagnosed Cancers is Emerging in the Pandemic's Second Year. A brilliant journalist from ProPublica. What was your final thought?
I just wanted to end by saying that, like the pandemic itself, the impact of this crisis of undiagnosed cancers is expected to hit communities of color particularly hard because they were already vulnerable to cancer, disproportionately vulnerable to cancer before the pandemic hit. So Black Americans already die of all cancers combined at a higher rate than any other racial group. For Latinos, cancer is the leading cause of death, breast cancer specifically for women. And what I heard from every single oncologist that I spoke to, every single public health expert that I spoke to, every single physician that I spoke to for this story was the same message, which is moving forward now, don't delay care. If you've gone a year without seeing your doctor, if you've missed your screenings, if you're feeling some symptoms and you're afraid of going in, they said, come in now. Hospitals, doctor's office, clinics have taken a host of safety precautions to protect people, and it's safer to go into a doctor's office or a hospital than it is to have cancer unknowingly growing inside of you.
Dua El-Deeb, everybody, journalist, ProPublica. A crisis of undiagnosed cancers is emerging in the pandemic's second year. Dua El-Deeb, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on. Happy
Blessings
Mother's
to
Day to everyone. Take
Happy
care.
Mother's Day to you. CK Hoffler, I know you have to go. Talk to me. What do you make of her story? I mean, is there anyone to sue? I know you only have a couple of minutes, but this is happening all over the country. I mean, because her back was against the wall. Factory worker, she didn't feel that she didn't have time to deal with this little lump. And now look at it.
Well, and it's a very unfortunate, it's a very common story. It was a common story before COVID. It's even more prevalent now because one of the things that COVID did for families, for mothers, whether they had the ability to work at home or not, they had to turn in and, as we always do, take care of their family. Take care of their family during COVID. Make sure that people were getting tested in the family. Make sure they were getting vaccinated if that was a choice of the family. And so, again, one of the things that we are famous for doing, especially Black women, is ignoring our own bodies, putting off. And I have so many examples, Santita, as do you, of women, young women. I call myself young, even though I've been a lawyer for 34 years, but young women who just missed. I have a very, very close friend. She missed her breast cancer screening 1 year because she was just too busy. They got a new house. Her son was doing this. She had a lot of stresses from a work standpoint, and she just didn't take the time to take care of herself. And just at that moment, it hit. By the time she discovered, it was already in her lymph nodes, and she died 4 years later after a valiant fight. It only takes very little time. And because of all that was circulating during COVID, if you felt badly, if you woke up with a headache, oh my God, I got COVID, let me go get tested. If you had a pain, oh my goodness, I have COVID. But it could have been pain, and it can be pain due to something else. So the message, I hear her message loud and clear going forward, we've got to get back to taking care of ourselves, because just as we know, if we're not good, the people around us that we take care of won't be good. They won't be good. So we've got to do that. And for the fights that we had, Santita, you talked about voter suppression. We have voter suppression. We have police brutality. In addition to COVID, all of these things going on, we have to be healthy in our own bodies and ourselves to be able to fight, to get up every day, wake up and say, oh my goodness, someone is trying to prevent me from voting. You have to be good in your health to be able to fight that fight, to be able to stand in line, to be able to put cases into court if you're a lawyer, to be able to call your legislators, your senators and say, pass that bill, pass the Congressman John Lewis Voter Restoration Act. You've got to be healthy to do that. And for that, you have to take care of yourself. And I know that people are concerned because they don't have health care. COVID, did have an impact on that. But there are clinics, there are facilities, and there are programs that will allow people to get those screenings, get those tests, even if they don't have any health care. And I think we just have to do it as a community. We are always disproportionately impacted, but really all women when it comes to breast cancer and ovarian cancer. If you have a family history, as I do, my maternal grandmother died of breast and ovarian cancer, not one, but another, 2 types of cancer at the same time that metastasized throughout her body in the 50s. So when you have a history like this, COVID, no COVID, other tragedies, you've got to take care of yourself. Absolutely. Because otherwise you won't be able to take care of anyone else.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I'm sending you much love. Happy Mother's Day, my sister. I love
you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you too. And happy Mother's Day to you and to your mother, who is a mother to so many and has been for decades. Yes. We love you. We love Jackie, and we love your whole family. Thank you, Santita.
Thank you so much. And my mother's getting her honorary doctorate from North Carolina A&T State University, where she and my father met and married nearly 60 years ago. Wow. That's where I'm headed there. I'm headed there this weekend. I'm getting out of here so I can go be with my family. And thank God. And thank you for being part of our family, C.K. Hoffler.
Well, thank you.
I love you. And happy Mother's Day to you once again. Everybody, call me at 773-763-WCBT. What did you think of this story? I mean, and I'm glad that this story that it was just given to me. I was reading, and there it was. I said, this is really emblematic of where we are. Um, Dr. Shanita Knighton, one of the world's foremost infection prevention specialists. I mean, we don't make our own list, but this woman's back was against the wall, Dr. Knighton. This is a factory worker. She had to keep that job. She's got people depending upon her. She has a mortgage. I don't have time for a lump. And by the time it was discovered, it was stage 4 cancer. What's your response?
It is unfortunate and sad because it was the reality of so many people during the pandemic. And I empathize with them, on multiple levels. One, just as a human being, understanding my mom being an essential worker, my dad being an essential worker, me remembering that, yes, while coronavirus or COVID-19 is what's called a universal classic pandemic, in the Black community, we have pandemics all the time, but our pandemics tend to go unseen. And so this is the plight all the time of the Black woman of having to decide whether or not I can take care of my health, or do I take my only limited days off to make sure I can take my children to their checkup appointments? Do I take my time off because my children are ill and I need to stay at home with them, which means that I don't have the paid time off for me to go to my own appointments and worry about my own self-care? This is the plight of a mother, and the plight of a mother on so many levels in our community. And one of the things that I saw early on of just understanding essential workers, still going to these grocery stores, my family's like we still live in these neighborhoods, is I understood that, yes, while they were thinking about the pandemic, they were thinking more so about, I need to keep my job. I have to keep the lights on. I have to sacrifice my health right now because I need the money in order to be able to take care of other people. So when it started to happen and I understood that this was the case, because again, my research was already showing me that people inside a healthcare status were not practicing infection prevention. I'm like, imagine all of these individuals that are essential that already should be, to me, the most valued people, but are the most undervalued. They are the most undervalued. No one tends to think about the importance of the person in the grocery store, the person in the fast food line, and guess what? They are there on the day when I don't want to cook for the holiday, right? They don't think about these individuals whatsoever, but these are real MVPs. When I think about even in the healthcare setting, the individuals that come in, so the environmental service workers, are so important because guess what? They're the ones that's cleaning the bed rails and the floor and removing pathogens so nurses can come in and do their job. And by the way, to all of my fellow nurses, happy Nurses Week. I mean, it's a lot that we don't tend to think about. And so when I hear her story, it is very unfortunate, but I'm sure that sadly, so many of us can relate to exactly what just happened. I have relatives that didn't go in and they left their congestive heart failure untreated. And that didn't turn out too well. So let's just say we've had a lot of death in our family that was not necessarily directly from COVID, but was indirectly from COVID because they couldn't get in to get medication. They couldn't get in to see their primary. They canceled their appointments because they weren't certain. But I was explaining to people, when individuals say, stay home, it hits different. It hits a lot different when you're telling someone to stay home. Because for many of us that should not be staying home because we face chronic conditions, we stayed home following directions. And as a result of that, it ended up costing us our health at times and costing us our lives. And so I always say that the messaging was not sensitive whatsoever.
I know you got to run because you got to teach your class. What do you want to share with us, leave with us today? Because you are in the caring profession. This is what you do. You are truly part of the front line too. And you're looking at the little things like mothers do that can get us sick or that can make us well as an infection prevention specialist. One of the few in the world, really.
So I would first and foremost say that one of the things that we don't pay attention to is stress. Stress can bring about illness. Stress lowers the immune system. Not eating correctly lowers the immune system. There are so many of these things that we do that can lower the immune system. It is important that as we are evaluating what it is that we should be doing for everyone else, that we have to remember we can't help others if we don't have our own oxygen mask.
Yes, yes. Amen to that. Dr. Shanita Knighton, Case Western Reserve University, thank you for being with us today.
No, you're absolutely welcome, and I thank you for allowing me to listen in to these wonderful women. Look, I've heard some fashion tips going on too, so I'm very grateful just to even be able to listen in and hear the wonderful work that's being done. So thank you so much, and yes, I'm praying for these individuals that are going through this right now because it is something that's hitting us all and it's hitting all of our families. And me personally, I can think about how my own health took a toll during the pandemic because I was homeschooling 3 kids and all of a sudden went from being a scientist to having to be a I call it a pseudo stay-at-home mom, which again was a struggle. So just imagine those individuals that couldn't stay home. So I greatly empathize for what's happening right now, but just have to remind us as women, we got to take care of ourselves first. Because otherwise we can't take care of everyone else effectively as we would like to.
It's if you love mothers, then show them that you love them. And that's why we're bringing this story today, because this is real life stuff. This is like the ultimate mother sacrifice, right? And God bless her. God bless her, and God bless her son, who will go on. We're calling that into existence right now. Who will go on to become a great physician, precisely because of the road that he has walked with his mom. And so God bless them, and God bless you, Dr. Shanita Knighton. Love you, girlie.
Oh, I love you too, and thank you all so much.
Amen, amen. Well, Attorney Aaron Connolly, one of the most brilliant political strategists in the country. You're a single mom, and you're a single mom who
I
deals
am a
with
single mom.
chronic health condition yourself. When you hear her story, I know that must have hit you like right where you live, literally.
Yes, the story was so important and heartbreaking, and that easily could be me and John in a few years. And to be fully accountable to our friends in the audience, I like many moms have sacrificed pieces of my health during this time. Not something I'm proud of, but I put off I live with type 1 diabetes and put off my test because of fears of just going to get blood work at certain points, right? But I know I'm not alone. 70% of mothers in this country say that stress alone has damaged their health during the pandemic. 70%, and that's probably close to 99 if you ask me. And for Mother's Day, as many of your brilliant guests said, we really need some policy changes, not just the beautiful cards and flowers that we get showered with. And I also want to say that a shout out to the women who are not biological mothers in this world. I know I am helped and supported by aunties and mentors and women. I believe every woman is a mother. And I want to put that out there because those women are stressed too, and their health is at risk too, right? This past week, actually, one of my former mentors when I started my career in advertising, after I pivoted from practicing law, passed away from her second bout of cancer. And her cancer came back during the pandemic and went undiagnosed because she actually caught COVID-19, had to be quarantined,
And that whole event caused the cancer to come back with a vengeance. And unfortunately, she passed away last week. There was a beautiful article in the New York Times about her and her sister, Camille. Her name was Lisa Maxim. She was a wonderful person, wonderful mother of two, mothered many of us young women coming into a tough male-dominated industry. And that's another personal illustration of this, of the information that we see in this article, right? That women are holding back out of fear of getting COVID, out of many have been impacted with their insurance and cannot pay for some of these tests anymore. If you were let go from your job and you're struggling to keep your housing situation afloat, if you're struggling to provide food for your children, as your other guest said, the thing you're going to push off is usually going to be something related to yourself. But I've learned the hard way, having a chronic illness, unfortunately, during this pandemic, that I can't afford to put my son's oxygen mask on before mine. And that's been a tough lesson. And I hope as things start opening up in our country with the Biden administration, we see different priorities, and those policies reflect the values that we say we have. We don't have family values in this country if a woman can't go get a cancer screening for free, right? How can we support women if we don't have Medicare for all? How do we support women if we're not providing economic support like these new child credits that we'll see coming in, where mothers and families will be getting that monthly support in the form of actual cash, which is what we see makes a real difference. So those are the types of things that I hope to advocate for and support in the Biden administration, but we need to move faster. People are suffering and dying, and we can do better.
Absolutely. Chaparral, what's your reaction to this? Because Mother's Day, it's loaded for a lot of people. But I know it must be particularly poignant to you because you're the mother of, I don't know how many children you have now, Chaparral. Okay, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know how many children you have, because every time I speak with you, I hear a new voice shouting in the background, "Mama, Mama, Mama." But when you hear this story, and when you hear how women are struggling out here, and you've had your own challenges, having released a son back to heaven from where he came, what do you think when you see these people who cannot pay it, who do not have the wherewithal to be able to take care of their own health?
I think that as women, we tend to do this, Santita. We tend to put ourselves on the back burner to keep the family growing. And I think that it's almost a natural instinct for us to do. God called us to be nurturers. And so we are used to nurturing everyone else except ourselves. And so what we're seeing is that when we see what happened with this mom, we see that she put everyone's needs above her own. And so one of the things that I would encourage women to do is that we have to first take care of us. You know how they always tell you, if the plane loses compression, make sure you put on your mask first before you put it on your child. And at first I was like, no, I'm going to save my child. Guess what? If you pass out, your child is also dead. And so the thing is that we have to realize that we have to take care of ourselves first so that we can be the nurturing parent to everyone else. Not only, women have such tremendous needs and skills that we pass to everyone. We are not only nurturing the children, we're nurturing the husbands, we're helping at work. We're like super women. We are super women. That's who we are. And so by nature, this is what we always do. And so we have to begin. And I remember, because I've been very diligent about making sure I get my annual exams. And I was kind of, with the pap smear, they're basically telling me, you need to do that every 3 years. Well, why was it so important in the beginning that I had to do it every year? Now you want to move me to 3 years. Why?
So these are things that we have to begin to demand, that we want to have adequate health care. And so, it's just so much, Santita, that we as women have to go. We have the world on our shoulders at all times. And it's so much for us to bear, but we have to remember to take care of ourselves first. Because if we're not okay, we can't help anyone else. And that's just the bottom line to it.
And I think those are the real needs that we need. If you want to talk about Mother's Day, first of all, go back to the original idea, Mother's Day for peace, because mothers want to end war, period. They want and they want to establish peace, which will save all of our children, which will save the whole society. But I think, one of my favorite things to see, Chapearl and Aaron, is a makeover. And you know what? But I think Chapearl, Aaron, we all love makeovers. Just very quickly, why do you love a makeover, Aaron?
Oh, I love makeovers. It was my favorite thing to watch with my mom, that makeover show on TLC growing up.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer in how you feel on the outside really helps how you feel on the inside. You put your shoulders back, you put your chin up, you feel good. In my work as a consultant, part of the fun part is when we get to take people shopping and get a new haircut and for photo shoots and things like that and style them. That's one of my favorite fun pieces. But you see the glow, right? You see the confidence change, and it as you always encourage me to put on some red lipstick when I come into the studio with you.
No. Wait.
It just helps you shine a little brighter,
Mel and Chapearl, we had a Halloween party. Well, maybe 2 years ago now. She came in.
Yeah, it had to be 2 years ago.
And she came in. I want you to know, Melanie,
1 minute.
the owner of Essential Elements here in Chicago. She looked like a model, and her head was up. Poor Aaron could barely take a picture, Mel, because she was that lipstick had just transformed her. How can we get over and get a transformation over Essential Elements? How can we see it?
1640 East 87th Street in Chicago, just east of Stony Island.
30.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also, I just wanted to digress a bit and also talk about the topic a little bit, because I don't even know if you know, but one thing that's very near and dear
15.
Essential Elements is advocating for certain causes for women, and you
hold that thought.
Many years.
Hold that thought.
Yeah,
because we're going to talk about it on Facebook Live just for a few seconds right afterwards. But everybody, I want you to have a blessed. Stay right here with me on the Santita Jackson Show. The Santita Jackson and the Prince page. Have a happy Mother's Day, everybody. Mother's Day for peace. Take care of yourself. I love you. God bless you. But what were you saying, Mel?
Yeah, so every year for the past several years, Essential Elements has had a platform for breast cancer awareness.
Yes, you have.
And in 2019, we had our largest ever in attendance, over 50 women in attendance. We partnered with the University of Chicago, had breast cancer physician come to speak, and not only that, the university offered free ultrasound mammograms to attendees. And this was a very special test that they're doing now, because it's highly recognized that women in the African American community tend to have denser breasts, and so therefore a lump can go overlooked in a traditional mammogram. And not only, I guess what's really significant is I did have a customer to come back to thank me because she was diagnosed from that free exam. And, that means more than just putting a dress on someone when knowing internally there's something else going on. And so, yeah, COVID prevented this from happening last year for us, because we ended that event with, high hopes of making it even bigger in 2020. And I'm looking forward to, making this happen again, because it is so very important. I'm just, much like the beauty shop, when in the business I'm in, I hear the stories. I know what my customers are going through oftentimes, and living it with them. And so it's very important. And I just want to thank you for having this topic today. And the young lady's story was just so touching to me for the very fact that, that's as important to me as the outside. Dressing the outside is the inside and what's going on with us. So thank you.
Well, no, it's a both and that's why I wanted you here today. I mean, Chapearl, the thing is, and Aaron, you know, we really were built for beauty. And I don't mean just putting makeup on your face. No, 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 no. That's what we appreciate that. And everyone is beautiful. And that's why I said, from the inside out, from the outside in, the reason these women came to this event and Essential Elements is because they were going there in search of something, in search of a better looking, feeling self. That's why they were there. That's why they were there. And then along the way, they got blessed again. Somebody got well. And and so I think it all works hand in hand. I don't think we can separate these things out. And women are able to do that. We do this, that, and the other because we don't have a choice.
Right.
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. So everybody, look, get over to Essential Elements. I love this shop. I love this woman. She is just such wonderful work, and just it's the magnificence never stops. And I really hope that you will get on over there and really enjoy yourself and support these businesses that are in our community. We've got a lot of beauty, a lot of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful work and workers in our community, and we need to support. You don't have to go downtown to be fabulous now. You don't. You really don't. So think about that.
Absolutely not.
Look, I know I don't. How about that? My mother and I go to this place. And if we shop on separate days, we end up getting the same things. But there you go. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? Everybody, I will not be with you on Monday because I am going to be in Greensboro, North Carolina with my mom. She gets her honorary doctorate from North Carolina State University, where she and my father met and married. My father wanted to date her, and she said, okay, as a condition, seriously, of dating, she said, okay, you can help me with a term paper because he was an upperclassman. And he said, okay. And it was about the India-China border dispute. And he said, who is this woman? This is like 1961, 1962 at Little North Carolina A&T State University. Well, now it's been almost 60 years, praise the Lord. And with all the work that my mother has done, she's the one who would go out. She went to Nicaragua before my father did. She went to the Middle East and met with Yasser Arafat before he did, and on and on and on, because she's had such a tremendous interest and insight into international and domestic affairs. So much of what I do is grounded in what my mother taught me. She taught me about water rights and the globe and the fact that I'm not a minority, that most of the world looks like me, and most of the world is poor, and most of the world is poor not because they ought to be. They're poor because they've been robbed. We just found out that $152 trillion has been taken from so-called developing nations. That's right. We're going to talk about that next week. So the West is like artificially rich. All of that I learned at my mother's knee. And so instead of pouring into us, people are going to pour into her this weekend. And I hope that you will do that with your own mom and with the mothers in your life, your godmothers, your aunts, these women who've just been praying for you. Please do that. Please do that. I love you, everybody. Lorraine, give my love to your mom. Travel safely. D. Ray, Barbara, everybody. Mel, please give my love to your mom. Melanie.
Absolutely. And you do the same.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I love
Thank you. Thank you again. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Excuse me, Aaron, I love you. Chapearl, I love you. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Love
Paul,
you.
happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you for making everything great. Love you, everybody. I'll see you Tuesday. Bye-bye.